All right. Oh, you got to turn your mic on again. Go ahead and turn your mic on. All right. All right. And we're live now. So, cool thing. Today I have Bridgette, which is my guest. Go ahead and just tell me a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Bridgette Binford. I'm a health and productivity coach, which I emphasize a lot on productivity so we can fit things like healthy habits into our lives. We can get more done, more of the right things done. So really having that time to do what's the most important to you. So that's kind of what I think productivity is.
And what got you into this? What is it that, inspired you to become this type of coach?
Yeah, so I've been in worksite wellness for a really long time, and I've seen just how hard it is for people to, like I said, fit in healthy habits. So a lot of people know what to do. It's creating that time to do it. Mm-hmm. And I was a project manager and did process improvement for a long time in addition to that worksite wellness. And
where'd you do that at?
I did it for Kaiser.
Okay.
Kaiser Permanente. And so I felt like the two could be put together really easily, so I can help people manage their time and their energy so that then, better health is the outcome and feeling better is the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess what broad of spectrum of clientele do you work with, I guess? Like, do you only work with moms? Do you work with men? Do you work with kids? Do you work with, what is it, I guess, the broad spectrum that you work with?
Yeah, so far, most of my clients have been women, usually working moms. Had some that are not working outside of the home, but are working inside the home and just feel like, again, they don't have enough time to get done what's important to them. They end up feeling like they're chasing a to-do list from day to day, or maybe they just don't feel fulfilled in their life and what they're accomplishing. So they come to me usually because they're feeling tired. They're not really sure what they need to tweak, but they know something needs to change. Mm-hmm. And so, mostly women. But I've done some worksite work as well. So then, men get introduced as well. Yeah. But I've not had one-on-one male clients to speak of.
Nice. Yeah. And what's the most common, I guess, thing that you hear when people want to hire your type of services? What is the most common, I guess, thing that you hear, I guess, yeah?
So, two things. A lot of people have come to me because they want to change their job. And I think they've seen that I went from having this very corporate structured job to now being on my own, having a lot more flexibility, having time to work out and eat more healthily. Mm-hmm. And so they say, I want that. Can you help me figure out a path to either change the way I'm working now or change my job? So I've had a lot of job changers.
Okay.
And then the other side are people who say, I want to work out. I really genuinely want to work out. I've not been able to stick with it or fit it in. And can you help me figure out where I can fit that in and how I can like it? Mm-hmm. And so those have been the two major categories. Obviously, there's people kind of with different goals spread in there, but that's predominantly what I've had.
What's the most craziest, outrageous goal that you've ever heard that somebody wanted to accomplish, and I guess you helped them accomplish that, even though it was a little out of the ordinary, but you helped them come to that goal that they wanted to reach?
Yeah, well, actually, I had a client, and it was her own goal. She shared it with me, so I supported her in it because that's what she wanted to achieve. She wants to be on the Ellen Show.
Oh.
And that was just something that was really important to her.
Okay.
And she's a photographer, an amazing photographer. She wanted to do some photography, and it was just something that was speaking to her. And, being a coach, I love it. People take action on their own. Mm-hmm. So she took all the steps to outreach Ellen and to follow through with it, but I can be the one there to say, well, who's to say that goal is too crazy or that goal is too big? If you want to do it, outreach and put your best, effort into it, and then don't look back. Just keep pursuing it.
Did she get on the Ellen Show yet?
Not yet.
Not yet?
No.
How many times has she tried?
Just once. I said, well, what's your follow-up strategy? And so that's been a big thing for me too. Like, people have a goal, and I know for me too, you're like, well, I tried it. And it's like, well, you have to keep following up. Like, let's work on your follow-up strategy then.
So what are the steps that she's taking right now to, I guess, reach out to Ellen?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard Ellen's a really kind person, but I've heard other things too. But from what I see, I hear she's very kind.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, what has she reached out to her through social media, or I guess what the steps that she's done so far?
Yeah, I guess they just have like your normal channel of like, would you like to be on the Ellen show? Apply here. And so that's what she's done so far.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you know, it takes putting that goal out there and like continuing to like figure out other avenues. So
Mm-hmm.
she's researching those right now.
Nice.
So still kind of in research phase.
So you help women transition out of whatever job it is that they're doing into something different, essentially. And I guess that seems like a very stressful thing to a person that is trying, very stressful and scary, I would say. The person who's trying to leave their career that they've known and swap over to a different career or a different life choice. I guess, what kind of stresses comes with that? What kind of breakdowns or things like that, you know, I'm sure they call you and tell you like, oh my God, I'm having a mental breakdown or a emotional breakdown or anything like that, or, you know, what is the biggest thing that has come with that, I guess?
Yeah, what I see the most is like that fear of timing, or like fear of knowing when enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much can I take of my current situation, and when do I know I have to pull the trigger? So that fear again of just, when can I say I'm moving on?
Yeah.
And it's, wow, something else happened today that was just a bummer. Like, I'm ready to move on, but I'm not ready. And so going through those steps of like feeling like they've got maybe a safety net financially, maybe it's, you know, having that emotional stability to take that next step. Maybe it's, you know, having a family and needing to be the right time. So I think probably that all boils down to timing, like the timing of it in terms of being ready, but also not having your life be chaos because you jumped into something without thinking about it first.
Yeah.
So the timing piece.
The timing piece.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about your story. When you left, I guess, Kaiser, you had a very high position in the company. What is it that, I guess, made you want to leave and start your own thing and, you know, get into that realm of thing? I know you mentioned something about having doing corporate wellness or something like that is what you kind of went into a little bit. So tell me a little bit about that. What is it that you experienced and went through personally when that transition was happening with you, and what led up to, you know what, I can be a coach. I can help people with this.
Yeah, I wish it had been like that cut and dry. I did start out with a background in corporate health. I mean, my education is in health promotion and public health, so health is like a very big value of mine. And so for me, if that's out of alignment, it feels like it's out of balance, then I'm not functioning at my best. And so luckily, having a career in health, my health has always been something that I could have at a high importance. But I will say it changed when I switched out of worksite wellness and into more operations work within that former company. And so I noticed just that as time went on, I had less and less time to do what I needed to do, and I wasn't prioritizing my health any longer. So, you know, I gained weight, I was stressed out, I didn't feel good. And I'd had kids also, and my kids were sick then too. My son had gotten put in the hospital. My daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease. Wow. And I didn't love my job. I mean, it was challenging for me, and it was important, and I certainly tried my best. But then all those things happened with my kiddos, and I thought, you know, you wake up, it was like I woke up one day and I was like, how did I get here? And this value of health that I had is so far from what I'm doing now, what my family's doing. So at that point I decided, like, no matter what, I've got to figure out a way so that I'm feeling good about the work I'm doing every day, so that I'm not so stressed, I can take care of my family. And I knew I would not be able to do that in the career I was in right then. So I decided to step back and figure out what I wanted to do because I wasn't entirely sure right then. And it was scary. Luckily, I had some contract work I can keep doing to pay the bills. But I found that once I got my health back in order and my kids' and family's health back in order, what I wanted and needed to do became a lot more apparent. So at that point, I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to work with people one-on-one. I want to be a coach. I've seen people work on their health from the population perspective and worksite wellness, and that's awesome. But a lot of people need that guided one-on-one support, and so I wanted to do that.
And how long did it take you to transition from your employer to being self-employed?
Yeah, well, the first thing I tried at my corporate job was, well, maybe if I didn't work Fridays, like maybe if I work 32 hours, like that would help.
Yeah.
And so I did that probably for about 6 months, thinking that was the answer, and it wasn't. No. So I like to say, we have to test things out. So I gave that the good college try. It didn't work. It was not the answer. Because I will say, most of the time when you drop your hours, your workload doesn't change. Yeah. Right? So so I tried that, and then was planning kind of my exit from there, only for about 3 months. Like at that point, I felt like, the change is evident. And once I left, I did the contract work for about a year while I became certified as a coach, and also took on practice clients because I didn't want paying clients to witness me practicing. I think that's the way to go. And so all in all, probably about 2 years for that's a long transition. Yeah. But it was thought out. It was something that I pursued with intention versus like, I'm just going to do this and like ripping the Band-Aid off. And that's what I try to help my clients do too.
Yeah. And so when you got to that point, let's just say those 2 years came up and you finally, last day at work, and you were leaving the office, you had all your stuff and you're just like walking out. What was the thoughts that were going through your head?
At the time, like I was pretty ready.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, peace out.
I'm out.
Yeah. I had a vacation. I was going on vacation the next day.
Oh, okay.
And so I was just ready. Mm-hmm. I was ready. Of course, there's always those, I'm not going to be honest. Like, am I doing the right thing? If I want to come back, will I be able to? It's scary. Yeah. And not knowing what I know now and like how good it has been. Yeah, it was a little scary. Like I worked so hard to get where I was. Am I making the right choice? But ultimately it was. And once you made the choice, you got to go all in, I say. It doesn't help to like teeter-totter back and forth. Like, well, this is the choice I made now. Like, let's make the best out of that. So
let's go over week 1 and week 2 of being an entrepreneur. After vacation and everything's done and the dust is settled, what happened then?
Yeah. Actually, like I really focused on my kiddos. Like I took a pretty good break. So I was, spending time with them a lot, which is what I felt like I needed. Yeah. I started working out again, which was awesome. I love to work out, and so it was so nice to reincorporate that. And then I started learning. I started reading books. So I read a lot of self-help books. I think it's helpful. Okay. Self-help, get that. And so I started just learning and immersing myself in different things that I thought would help myself, but also help people that I wanted to coach eventually. Mm-hmm. And I started looking into the certification programs that I wanted to go after. So I don't stay in transition mode for long. Like I kind of dove right in. So
that's good. Yeah. It's good that you dove right in. Mm-hmm. So let's just say first client that was actual paying client. How did you feel?
How did I feel? I wouldn't be honest with you. I didn't tell you I was nervous. I think a lot of us have, especially as women, like we have these feelings of like, am I worthy enough? Like, will I be able to help this person? And so for me, building that confidence along has been a journey, but it's something that I realized quickly, I do have this ability to help others, and I love it. It makes me feel alive when I can see people achieving their goals, feeling better about what they're doing. And even when things don't work out 100%, I'm there to support them through that too. Yeah, so I was nervous, but excited, super excited to do it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was so afraid, like, what happens if somebody cries? Like, if I'm talking to them and they
I'm
start
sure you
crying,
had a lot of criers.
I'm like, I don't know what I will do. That was like my biggest fear. And literally within the first 10 minutes of my first client, she started crying. And I was like, it's happening. But you know what? Like,
how'd you manage that?
It's great. I was like, I'm going to start crying too if she starts crying, because I just do that. But I didn't.
Well,
I was
good.
actually like, well, managed that. Yeah. So it made me realize, though, that she was invested, and that was, and that she was at a place that she really wanted some support. Wow. So I started looking at it from that perspective, like, don't worry about people crying. It means they're invested, and different people express their emotions in different ways. So just because they're not crying doesn't mean they're not invested. So no longer afraid of crying.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you said that, trying to spend more time with the kids and your family and your husband and that stuff, like, that's what really inspired you to kind of get out of that. And then also your personal health was the one that started lacking a little bit. So on the other side of things, I guess, who is it that, I guess, you look up to, that somebody that does this, or the research that you did that you were just like, wow, that really inspired me. Like, that's the path I want to take. That person inspired me, or, things like that. Or did it just come from like personal own inspiration and motivation that you had to do something because you weren't happy?
Yeah, that's a good question. My mom, actually, she's a nurse, and so I knew early on, like, that I took after her in wanting to help people. Like, I love helping people just like she does, and she's very, like, science-minded and science-driven also. And she worked part-time when we were little, and she actually worked nights, which I couldn't do. I mean, if you want me to stay up past like 10 o'clock, you don't expect anything intelligent to come out of my mouth, which hopefully intelligent things come out of my mouth when it's not 10 o'clock, but giving myself credit. So I would say that's probably what it is. And she always said, whenever I would talk to her about how stressed I was, she's like, I think you need something that's more flexible. You could do your own thing. You've always been really driven. And so she really kind of inspired me that, like, you don't have to have this full-time, like, corporate job to make an impact, but also that there are opportunities to do other things that help others while you're also a mom. So I saw by example, that she figured out what worked for her and worked for us, and still helped people. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. So you have a retreat that I saw that's coming up. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I can tell you why I've started doing retreats too. So I've realized a lot of my clients, I mean, I'm a productivity coach. I'm trying to help people use their time in the best way possible. And some people, to talk to a coach like an hour a week, that's time they could be working out, it's time they could be spending with their kids or sleeping or whatever it might be. And there's a financial component too. And so I thought, I went on a retreat actually last October. It was awesome. And I realized, like, what an opportunity to help people use their time really efficiently and have time away, which I think we all need so much. And so I started offering them too. So you can go over a weekend, get some things accomplished, learn some things that would take you, weeks outside of the retreat environment, or maybe it's just a jump start for you to get started down that path. And so that's why I started offering them. Plus, I think and I can say as a mom myself, and I'm sure you feel like this too, just as a human, we don't connect enough anymore. And so kind of being together with other people for a weekend, I think is really powerful. So the next one is in Crested Butte.
And this is your second one, right?
Yep. I did like a mini one. I call it a mini retreat. It was one day in May, right around Mother's Day. And so this one's a full weekend. And I'm super excited about it. So the whole theme is to do less in our everyday lives so that we can be more present, be more of who we want to be in our day-to-day lives. So that's what we'll be working on throughout the weekend.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you said it's in Crescent Butte, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. That's really good. So what got you into doing retreats as well? Like, I know you said you went to a few retreats yourself and you thought it was great helping, other people to kind of experience that. But what really motivated you to take that step to, you know what? I think I can do this.
Well, the retreat I went on was led by someone who started certifying people to lead retreats, and I realized, like, oh my gosh, this is something I've wanted to do. Like, I'd had these ideas of girls' trips in my head, and like, oh, I want to take my friends to the wine country, or I want to take them to Crescent Butte and show them a good time. But I realized I wanted more than that, because I've been on a lot of girls' trips too, and you end up like needing a vacation from your vacation. Mm-hmm. It's like, whoa, that was rough. Yeah. And so I wanted to kind of take people on a girls' trip. I love hospitality. I'm from the South. I love to take care of people.
What part of the South?
South Georgia.
South Georgia.
South of Savannah. Mm-hmm. And so
what happened to the accent?
Yeah, it comes out.
It comes out.
I can't believe I haven't said y'all one time since I've been on this. So I want to take care of people. I want to show them a good time. I want to give them that space to take care of themselves so that they can, I like to say, like, hit a pause button. Like, I've always talked to my clients about, wouldn't it be nice if, while you're working on your health or you're working on your job or whatever it is, like, you can hit a pause button and then, like, everything else will stop. Yeah. And you'll figure it out, and then you can, like, restart it and, like, get back into life. And that's kind of what a retreat is, really. So, like, for the weekend, you, like, time out. I'm going to go figure this out. Yeah. And then when I get back, I'll be ready to try it out. Yeah. And so for me, like, I guess that was a lot of reasons. So it just made sense.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now that you're self-employed and you give all this time and effort to, these women and these people that you help, how does that, do you feel you have more time to spend at home with family too? Or do you feel like you just created the same thing where you're spending a lot of time with your clients and stuff like that? How do you find that balance, I guess, is what I'm saying?
Yeah, I learned that you can get burnt out at anything, right? Yeah. Like, you think, typically people talk about, like, burnout when it comes to work and their job, but, like, you can get burnt out at being an entrepreneur. You can get burnt out at working out. You can get burnt out at being a mom if you don't apply the, like, balance that you're talking about. And so for me, it's having to keep, like, a close watch on how I'm spending my time and how I'm feeling. So if I feel like I'm starting to turn into, like, crazy, run all over the place lady, then something is, like, I'm working on one thing or another too much. Like, I'm not taking time for myself, or I'm doing too much work, or I'm spending too much time, like, running the kiddos around places. And so I think we all have to learn to be our own barometer in whatever way we can. Mm-hmm. So, figuring out what it is that shows up when things are, kind of getting off track. And for me, one thing I did not anticipate being an entrepreneur, like, you can't turn it off. Yeah. It's hard to do. I mean, I'm always thinking about, oh, I could do this, or, oh, I could post that, or, oh. And so, like, figuring out, outlets to turn it off, people to talk to that kind of, like, help you get those thoughts out, and then you can move on with your day, and creating kind of some limits and boundaries around my work so that it didn't become all consuming, because I've learned I can be a workaholic if I don't watch it. Yeah. So nobody wants Godzilla mom because I work too much all day. Or Godzilla wife. Right. So that's it. Yeah, just watching.
So with those limits and boundaries,
yeah,
what kind of boundaries have you created, I guess, with your clients to not get overwhelmed, or where they, I guess, aren't calling you at 9, 10, 12 o'clock at night, freaking out or having a meltdown?
It's funny. I've not had, like, the serial, like, meltdown client. Like, most of my clients, they'll stick to their, like, hour session, and I do text check-in, so I kind of proactively check in with folks about specific things that are their goals. Yeah. And I think that provides them that, like, space and an opportunity to say, like, oh, it's really not going that well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I haven't had to do it. No. Got some amazing clients. So
that's awesome.
Thank you, clients.
That's really good.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I enjoy, like, a text that says, like, I'm struggling, or, hey, can we talk about this? But yeah, I found that most of them have been very respectful of my time, and I think by reaching out, like I said, at kind of regular intervals, it gives them an opportunity to let me know how it's going. So.
Nice. Okay, so let's switch tracks. Let's talk about home life.
Okay.
How's home life for you? Like with your husband, knowing that you're an entrepreneur, and I'm sure he works a lot of hours and things like that. Like, do you guys, I guess, schedule date nights? Do you guys schedule like certain things, certain times to spend time together and, you know, reconnect or enjoy one another, or, you know, whatnot? What is it that you guys currently have on the schedule, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of me actually stepping away from work too, and I didn't mention that. So my husband works in downtown Denver. It's a long commute. And when I was working full time and the kids, someone was sick, it was like someone was having to figure out like who was going to go get them. I really would rather go get them anyway, and take care of them. And so it's allowed us that flexibility for me to be able to step in more often, not always, when the kiddos need something. And so it's allowed us then not to use our weekends catching up on stuff around the house, because that's what we found. It was like work all week, then the weekend comes, work around the house, and then we're back at work again with like no time to enjoy each other or our children. And so
and did that affect your marriage sometimes, or really?
We were not very happy people with each other, just because you need that, you know, connection, that time to spend together and not just be like getting stuff done. And so we have made a point to schedule regular date nights now, because it's important for us to get out and have time without like little people.
And how many kids do you have?
Just two.
Just two?
And to do things we like to do. I mean, before we had kids, we golfed. We went on, you know, cycling together. We are very active together. And so not even feeling like a date has to be going out for like food and drinks. It can be something during the day. And so that's actually easier to arrange because the kids are already in school. So we went golfing recently. It was super fun.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of
Where'd you guys go golfing at?
We went to Kennedy in Aurora.
Okay.
I hadn't golfed in 7 years, so it was pretty good. I felt bad for the people golfing with us. But it was a good time. And so, you know, recently we went on a date where we went on like a hike. It was an easy hike because we had on kind of nice clothes, and then went out to dinner after that. So we try to incorporate like being active with our time away too, because we both value that as well. So yeah, we try to keep like a regular commitment to like getting together without the children, and enjoying that time.
And do you guys plan that like once a week or twice a week, or do you guys just kind of?
No, we're not that good.
No.
We try to do like once a month.
Like once a month. Okay.
Yeah. And the big limiting factor for us is finding someone to watch our kiddos. And I will say, I try to practice what I preach. So I tell people, you know, schedule things like on the default. So what I mean by that is like the third, you know, Saturday of the month is like your date night, and just keep it that way. So then you have the person like set to watch your kids. It's easier to cancel than it is to find the person, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so we actually need to work on that because we've fallen off of that routine. But when you have it in that routine, it makes it easier to do. So that's a to-do for me when I leave here, is to get back on the the date bandwagon.
There you go.
Okay.
And so what advice would you give to somebody when, let's just say, they fall off the wagon and they're veering from the original plan that they had to leave this job and transition into whether it's self-employment or a different career, and let's just say they fall off the wagon and they're having these second thoughts and these doubts of if they can do it or if they can't do it? What advice would you give to somebody if they're going through that transition now and they're fighting themselves and driving themselves crazy essentially over it?
Yeah, you know, I always try to look for opportunities to be analytical in most situations. And what I mean by that is, like, instead of just going off feelings, looking for like actual pros and cons or facts that will lead you one way or the other, because maybe it's not the right time. I mean, maybe you're having those doubts because there's something like real and concrete that's in the way. And so for instance, I had a client who said, hey, can we talk about this job? I think it could be the right one for me to step away from what I'm currently doing into the next thing. Like, let's talk about it. And so, her gut was telling her, no, I shouldn't do it. And so I said, all right, let's make a list. What are the pros of going now and doing this job? All right, now what are the cons? And so with that kind of way to look at it, again, it's taking away like that gut feeling, and you can still go with your gut, but it's giving more weight to it. And again, it's taking away that like emotion a little bit at least. So then you have more like concrete evidence. Whether or not you use it, it's still helpful to get your ideas out that way.
And you can see them on paper or whatever it is you choose to write them down on.
Yep. I like to try to give like some type of analytical focus to it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what do you think about vision boards?
I like them. I think people should dream. I think that's one thing I like about coaching, especially like an initial session. I'm like asking people, what are your dreams? And, if you were to talk about the best version of you, what does that look like? The thing that I think is troubling about them is that people just create those and then they don't do anything with them. I've done it before myself where I'm like, oh, this will be amazing. And then it just sits in my closet and I stare at it. And so I think a vision board is awesome. And then having, 3-month goals that align to that vision, and then weekly goals that lead up to those 3-month goals. So really like taking the vision and putting it into action, because even if you feel like the vision's further out than 3 months can all add up. 3 months and 3 months and 3 months, you get there eventually. But I think having that dream put out there, it's a desire, it's something you want. And if you're not taking steps to get closer, I think you just end up getting kind of stressed out or sad or and sometimes you don't even realize it. But yeah, I love vision boards. I just think there needs to be action behind him. I like the 3-month board comes after the vision board.
And do you have so now that you say 3-month board, do you have like a system for vision boards or something that like, hey, here's a vision board, let's make realistic goals for the next 3 months of what your vision board is going to look like?
I help people come up with a vision statement, so it's more words than it is a vision board. And usually, like, people will have done some type of vision board on their own, so they have an idea of what it is.
So what's a vision statement?
Yeah, it's kind of a succinct statement around, like, the main things that you want to accomplish in a given time. And I usually have people do it for a year. Like, a year from now, what will you be doing? And you state it in the present tense. So I am, working out 5 times a week. I feel healthy and strong in my body. I'm having regular time to devote to my self-care. I mean, it'll be more specific than that, but it's very like I said, present focus. So a year from now, this is what you'll be able to confidently say about yourself. And so I'll have people brainstorm, and then I come up with a statement out of what they've brainstormed. And usually I'm pretty good at what I come up with. I'm like able to pull it together. And then people have something they can put on the wall and look at, but it's kind of pulled together more than a vision board. And I help them walk through then 3-month goals to get there. So we'll pick the main kind of buckets of activities that feed into that. And then kind of weekly goals, or I call them weekly experiments, to try out to get closer to that 3-month goal then. So that's the process.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fun.
So how long have you been in business?
Technically been in business 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. So 2.5 years. And what has been the biggest struggle for your business, I guess? What's the biggest thing that you struggle with for your business that is just, it's challenging, but I know you get through it, so.
Yeah. I joke, like, I thought, you become a coach and you hang this sign up that says, like, coach, and then everybody, like, wants you to work with them.
Yeah.
And I want to pay you. Like, people would just be throwing money at me, basically.
I think we all think like that.
I seem nice, don't I? Funny, people don't do that.
Right.
And so for me, like, there's been a big journey around talking about what I do, putting myself out there, stepping outside of really my comfort zone in terms of like promoting myself and what I do. I had no problem selling things when it was, for another company. I worked at Pier 1 and I was like the top salesperson in high school. And then when I can sell an armoire.
I'll sell your shit all day long.
Yeah, you want a candle? I sell you one of those. But when it comes to like really selling myself, like that has been hard. And so that's the hardest part, like realizing how much marketing and sales goes into having your own business. So silly me.
Why do you feel that's the hardest part?
Why? I think almost like it's that putting myself out there part, like I'm capable of doing this and I can help you. Really, I just want to be like, I just want to help. I just want to help. Like, trust me, I promise it will help. That doesn't work. Like really digging deep around what it is specifically that I do to help. I mean, that's hard work to do. For me it was anyway. And so I knew I could help, but articulating it in a way that speaks to other people and actually saying it out loud versus just hoping people will notice. That's hard for me.
And so. You say putting yourself out there, like what kind of what platforms do you use right now to put yourself out there?
When I started, I did mostly I did talks at our local rec center, and I loved that. Like, it was so fun, and they will put your class in the brochure and whatnot, and so that was that was a lot of fun. And I realized it was going to take more than that though. So I'm looking for speaking engagements, usually like at different co-working spaces or entrepreneur groups. I use social media. That's the hardest part for me because friends and family are there. And people will say like, you're tearing Facebook up, and I'm like, oh, I know. I almost feel bad that like my face is popping up all the time. Like, ugh. And so social media, so Facebook and Instagram, and just going to different networking groups. So that's pretty much
cool.
It. Yeah.
So, on social media, what are the biggest social media platforms that you feel have helped you the most?
Yeah, I will say, like, I've not gotten a ton of clients from social media.
Really?
Like, I can't track down, like, this client found me on social media. Those people, like, I've either known or they've been a referral from someone I've worked with or have known. And I've found that they will get my name and then they'll go watch what I have on social media. Particularly Instagram. I think people right now just like Instagram. And so I think they go then to kind of look at what my message is, and then they'll contact me is kind of what I've been able to track down. But yeah, Facebook too. I've got a Facebook group, and so I've had folks, ask questions there, and I really feel like I can add value then. I mean, even if they don't become a client, I like being able to share information. So for social media, I can't say that it's like a super big driver of clients, but I enjoy, posting, whether or not they, get a ton of engagement or not. Like, it's become something that's almost like a creative outlet a little bit. So I like that.
Definitely. That's cool. So let's talk about weight loss. You said you gained a bunch of weight when you were working and you just felt unhealthy and things like that were going on. I guess what I'm asking is, what steps did you take finally when you said, all right, I'm out of here, it was your last day? What steps did you take towards losing weight? What kind of gyms did you go to? What kind of exercises did you do? Did you change your nutrition? Did you what kind of research, I guess it is, that you did to lose the weight that you did, that you had to come off? And how much weight did you lose?
I lost 25 pounds. which I've kept like 15 of those off. There's like that 10 pounds there that is not as easy for me to keep off.
Yeah.
And so it usually ends up being my diet, because I love to work out. I've always liked to work out, and I've always been a runner. I've been running since, cross country in high school. And I did that while I was still working, just not as much.
Yeah.
And they would be like really short runs, which I like to run, longer distances. And so when I first stopped working, I knew like I wanted to exercise at least 5 times a week. And I'm a big fan of group exercise.
Okay.
So I had been going to Orangetheory, just not very often, so I decided like to step that up.
Nice.
I think that's a really efficient workout. I mean, I get my running and I get rowing and I get some weights all at one time. And I found like it was working pretty well for weight loss for me.
Nice.
And for me, like I think it's important to track calories. I think you probably would agree with me on that. Like to track like what I was eating, like what is happening here, basically. And so that just gave me an awareness to like what I was putting in my mouth.
Yeah.
So I just tried to tweak that, but mostly I just upped my exercise.
Wow.
That's kind of how I've managed it in the past. I'm finding as I'm getting older, I'm not quite as lucky at just exercising and having it come off. So yeah, that was really what I did. But I'm a big advocate of like, okay, you want to lose weight, you got to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And exercise.
And so do you help your clients and guide them like what exercise might be best for them, or whether like group fitness or running or hiking or cycling, or do you kind of explore those options with them?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, like, people come to me with an idea of what they'd like to try or, like, what has worked in the past. And so we'll talk through, like, well, would you like to try that again? So I have them share their ideas, but then I usually will have some suggestions. I kind of joke, like, I wish I could get commission from Orangetheory. Like, people in different parts of the country that have decided to try it because, I think it's a good workout.
I think there's a program that you could, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to ask about that. So
just joking. I really don't want to because then I'll seem like I'm biased, right?
Right.
So not biased at all. And yeah, so I'll have them try it out. And I think just having me on the other end of the phone or whatever it is to say, did you try it? That accountability piece. Yeah. And then they can talk through again kind of analytically, like, well, what worked and what didn't work. If you didn't like it, what didn't you like? And then we try something else. And what will fit into your time. A lot of people feel like it has to be a certain amount of time that they work out, and especially at the beginning, like, let's just get you active versus like, don't feel like it has to be an hour. Let's just do something.
Definitely.
And so, I don't prescribe exercise. I'm not a personal trainer. So I'm really, quick to tell people, like, I'm not a trainer. I can help you figure out what will fit into your life and what exercises will work. And, I'll even have people do like push-up challenges and things like that. But if you want to get into like specific, exercise prescription, like, I'm not your gal.
So
right now, anyway.
What was you said you went to Orangetheory. So what was your first class like? What was it like? What did you do? Who was your coach? What is it that you experienced for that first class? And what hooked you, I guess?
I think the first coach I had was probably Andre, who's still there. I go to those classes a lot. I remember liking rowing again because I'd done CrossFit for a while, like early on in my career when I still had time and didn't have kiddos yet. Yeah. It was just hard to fit in the time, I felt like, once I had kids to do CrossFit the way I wanted to do it. And so I was like, oh, I know how to row. Like, I can do this. Yeah. And, I mean, I've been a runner, so I felt comfortable with that.
And they have water rowers, right?
Yeah, they were good rowers. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I can do that. Like, I felt pretty, like, confident and competent in the workout. And I felt like, I've had a background in fitness, so I knew how to do the weights. The trainer was awesome. I was like, I just got a lot done in an hour. Yeah. This is pretty awesome.
And they're heart-based type of training, right?
Yeah, which, I kind of geeked out on that a little bit. Yeah. When I ran in college, I was always wearing a heart rate monitor to train and kind of see how hard I was pushing myself. So I was interested in that. So yeah, it seemed like a no-brainer. It was pretty close to my house, and I really enjoyed it. The music that they played was really good. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was sold.
Nice. So tell me your website. Tell me you have your retreat that's coming up again, and that is when? October
3rd through the 6th.
3rd through the 6th. Okay, October 3rd through the 6th. Where can people get more information about it?
Yeah, my website, which I always, people are like, BJB, what is that? It's my initials. In the South, people BJB, monogram everything.
Nice.
If you've not been to the South and witnessed it, I mean, people monogram the back of their car. Like, they'll have a big, like, swirly, initials on their back window. So it just makes sense then to monogram your business. being a Southern person that I am.
Yeah.
And I found that something that was getting in my way. I'm not really answering your question.
No, that's fine.
I
Go
think
ahead.
this is important.
Yeah.
I found something that was getting in the way of me starting my business was coming up with like some really cool name.
Yeah.
I mean, I kept throwing things out there like, what about well? And my husband's like, that sounds stupid. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop trying to come up with some like really cool name. Just like my initials, that seems fine.
Yeah.
And so if you find there's something like that that's, a sticking point, for me, it was the name of my business. Like, I'll just put my initials on it and I'll get started. And if at some point, like this really amazing idea for a name, which is yet to happen, comes up, then I will change it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want that to be the reason I didn't get started. So anyway, BJB Coaching it is. So my website, www.bjbcoaching.com.
Okay. And Instagram?
Instagram is just my name, Bridgette Benford.
Bridgette Benford. Okay. And your Facebook page?
BJB Coaching.
BJB Coaching on Facebook. All right.
Yeah.
And they can go there and get more information for your retreat, correct?
The retreat info's there, and I also just try to share like a lot of valuable information.
Do you have a blog that's connected to it?
I have a blog that's connected to my website, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. You guys heard it. Make sure you guys check it out. Thank you again for coming and talking about what it is that you do. For me, it really inspires me to want to talk to people that are providing services, especially people that are having a hard time being in a job that they don't necessarily love anymore, and they want to find something different. So I think that's really important, and mental health for sure, especially if you go to a workplace every day, I feel, and you just don't like it and you're just like, I need to find something different. I think it's a really good thing to, essentially find yourself a coach to transition out and really take those steps on moving forward to either finding a new job or starting up a new business for yourself as a self-employed person. I think that's really important, especially, again, mental health is one of the biggest things, because I think about it as association. If you go to work and you do something you don't like and you're just cranky all day long, and then you come home and you see your husband or wife, and then you just get angry at your husband or wife because of your work.
Godzilla mom and wife. That's
there
what
you
I
go.
call that.
Godzilla mom and wife. Like, you just get angry at your work, and it's just like you have this association with the first person you see is your loved one. Mm-hmm. So you're going to take it out on the loved one because you just had a shitty day at work, or you just don't like your job, and you have that association. So every time you see your partner from there on out, it's like, and you just want to get upset. So I think it's really imperative and very, very important that you find something you love to do. And I know that job just pays the bills right now, but taking those steps forward and looking for a coach, or, essentially researching to move forward. So I really appreciate you coming out and, talking with me and telling people what it is you do and things like that. So
Thanks
I
for
really
having
appreciate
me.
it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Alex.
All right. Awesome. Ooh.